First video in the new year, and we start with a difficult topic, the topic that changed the earth during recent years. Coronavirus, or rather corona illness, or rather corona pandemic. What is my opinion on the topic? I will not provide you a super scientific objective view. I will provide you the view that I gathered over the years, and I decided finally I have to share it with somebody. I have to throw it out of my head because it is stuck in there, and the current development of the situation that we are still not out of the whole corona pandemic doesn't make the stuff better. So my opinion on the case, my opinion about coronavirus. Let's go. But obviously before we begin, I have to tell you that this is Yury Experience, and here I share my various experiences about different topics. I do 2 videos per week, Mondays and Thursdays. If you will enjoy this video, please drop a like. You can also subscribe to the channel. Let's go. Prior to actual start, I will tell you that I am a lucky person. My work is not dependent on me being present somewhere. Whole coronavirus situation was rather good for me, was rather good for my self-development. I created this channel during corona pandemic. So my view is not only subjective because it is my view, but it is also subjective because my life is not in danger or my life is not worse because of the pandemic. I have to tell it. Except for that, I will provide you some numbers because I believe that numbers are important for perspective, but I didn't look these numbers up prior to this video, prior to recording. I looked it up for editing. So now I don't know the numbers, but here they are. And we start with the virus itself. I am no person who knows a lot about viruses. I know that viruses are not bacteria, which is an important point. I know that coronavirus is more or less typical virus, and it can cause different illnesses of our breathing ways. For example, coronavirus can lead to flu. Some types of it. So there are a lot of types of coronavirus. Coronavirus is like the overall name, and COVID-19 is the name of the virus that started this whole pandemic situation. But if we are talking about the illness itself, it is not the same as flu. Yes, both of these illnesses influence or affect our breathing ways, our breathing system, but there are some differences between these illnesses. For example, spreading. According to my knowledge, each person can potentially spread the illness further, at least in terms of flu. But if we are talking about COVID-19, then we are talking about big spreaders. So we have one person who spreads to a hell lot of people, and a lot of people who are almost not spreading the illness at all, because it works like that. Also, COVID-19 is not very deadly. It is deadly, and there are some consequences to your health, but it is not like extremely deadly. Depends on the comparison. And also there are some assumptions about lifelong consequences of COVID-19 on your health overall, but also on your breathing system. But most of these things are still assumptions because we don't have COVID-19 since so long periods of time. We have it since 2 years. Now let's talk about personal measures that you can do in order to not spread the virus and in order not to acquire the illness. And first we need to talk about masks. I did an independent video about masks, and I think I still have the same idea about whether the masks are useful or whether they are not effective at all. In short, masks do make sense, both for flu, for COVID-19, so at least for a lot of other illnesses that are connected to breathing ways. Masks make sense because they stop spreading of the water vapors that come out of your mouth. And water vapors are horses for the virus, so they are actual spreaders. So please don't breathe in other people's noses. Another method of personal prevention of getting an illness and spreading the illness is vaccination. And there are a lot of discussions about vaccinations. Prior to this moment, there were more discussions. Is the vaccination safe? Is it even good developed over this short period of time? What is riskier, illness or vaccination? Based on my knowledge, based on my understanding, the vaccination is good developed. It is developed based on the study that were created for flu shots and for different illnesses which are connected to viruses. The risks of side effects are lower in the vaccination or after the vaccination in comparison to the risks of bad outcomes if you get the illness. Again, you shall get the illness first, which also has not very high probability, but still, in my personal opinion, it is worth it. And also, vaccines help to reduce the probability of you getting an illness, it reduces the probability of you spreading the illness, and also it reduces the probability of bad side effects of the illness. Here, I need to state a very important point. We are not talking about you will get a vaccine, you will never get an illness. No, that is not how it works, that is not how any of vaccines work. We are talking about probabilities. If you get the vaccine against COVID-19, then you reduce the probability of getting COVID-19. You reduce the probability of having bad outcome. And by the way, for all of the variants of the COVID-19, not only the original form, but also for Delta and Omicron. You reduce the probability, you don't remove it. The probability is never zero. It doesn't matter how good or bad your immunity system is, and doesn't matter how good or bad vaccine is, or actually how good and great vaccine is. The probability is never zero. Then we have public measures that forbid you from entering some places if you are not vaccinated or you haven't had an illness or you were not tested. So one of these three things usually. Depending on the amount of cases, the rules are more strict or less strict, but the overall rule currently, at least nowadays, in order to go almost everywhere, you need to have either proof of vaccination or be a survivor of the illness. Sometimes even in addition to that, you need to be tested. And it is a great question whether tests are even that good. And if you ask me personally, tests are questionable. Don't get me wrong, the chemistry behind it is good. So it works how it is intended. But the method of acquiring enough of virus out of your body, out of your nose or maybe your mouth or this whole system behind it, it is just not good enough. On a lot of occasions you can have the virus, but you don't have a lot of virus here and here. And you can be ill, but quick tests will not show you anything. Which is why I do kinda understand why it exists, but I also not completely sure how much does it help and how much pressure shall we apply for all people to do it. So like it is a 50-50 situation. Another public measure is complete isolation, clothing pretty much everything that there is, and saying people please stay at home, only go out to buy some groceries. And to be honest with you, I'm not completely sure whether it helps. Based on my current knowledge, there are more and more articles that say it doesn't help actually, and it applies a hell lot of pressure, being it economical and or psychological, on the society, but more about it in a moment. Let's talk about some stuff that happened with us, with the society, with people since we have COVID-19. For example, a lot of people are scared. People have fear of getting COVID-19, of dying because of it, of losing a job because you have it. And I cannot blame them. Public media did a disastrous job of covering COVID-19. There was so much fear-mongering that people who know about science, who know about medical field, are afraid of COVID-19, are afraid of getting COVID-19 because of medical reasons. And at the end of the day, it is an illness, as every other illness there is. And yes, we shall prevent spreading it, but being afraid of it doesn't help either. Good reason for why it doesn't help is the fact that thanks to stress that we experience, our immunity system goes like weaker and weaker. And it goes against the point. Like, it doesn't matter what vaccines you get, if you don't have immunity to support that vaccine, it doesn't work like anyway. So I'm against fear-mongering. Yes, it is an illness. Yes, I hope that most of us agree with the fact that we shall not be ill, each person personally, individually. But it is nothing to be really scared about. You can also die from flu. I know it is not a very positive way of thinking, but you can also die from flu. You can die from a common cold. You can die from pretty much anything. The probability is not higher or lower, or at least not way more high or way more low. Except for that, we have an increase of psychological problems in different people. Because isolation, not all the people are used to or are suited to living alone. So I'm completely fine with living in my apartment. But I know personally a hell lot of people who are not really used to sitting alone at home, who would prefer to go out, or who would prefer at least to have an ability to go out. They don't do it. But the ability to do it is something that is important for them. People get depressed. People get lonely, people get scared of dying or dying alone, and it is not a good thing for us as a society. And that is why I'm kind of bad against isolation and like really strict measures, because we leaving people alone. We are leaving them alone although they need us. And again, don't get me wrong, I'm a great fan of idea. If you need help, go for it. But I do also understand that not everybody goes for help, although that person needs it. Now let's talk briefly about opposition, good and bad sides of it. First, censorship. What happened since the beginning of COVID-19 whole stuff? There was a lot of censorship of the ideas that don't go along with mainstream ideas. For example, that COVID-19 doesn't exist, or COVID-19 is a hoax, or that vaccinations are for microchipping and whatnot. There was and still is a lot of censorship around this whole topic, and everything that goes out of the circle is kind of forbidden to say. Although I get where it comes from, I don't agree with its existence. I understand why the censorship exists, because a lot of people don't really filter the information. A lot of people can understand what information is useful and what information is completely wrong and false. But shutting their mouths actually works against you, because you just throw firewood in the fire. You're making it way too easy for them to interpret it as they want to shut us up. They want to cover the truth. Just share more good quality information instead of trying to shut other people up. And I think it is wrong. Spread way more good information and the stuff will equal each other out. It will work out. And it is a way better way than just saying you are wrong, so I will not listen to you, la 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 la. That's basically how the opposite side works, and you are like, I will do it too. It doesn't make sense. Another kinda interesting discussion is vaccination versus freedom. And overall, this whole freedom idea was covered a lot during the recent times, because our restrictions to go to some places restriction our freedom. And in my personal opinion and based off my knowledge, you didn't have that kind of freedom in the first place. I think people overestimate how much freedom we actually have, and to be honest with you, we are not as free as you would probably think. Example different to COVID-19 would be naked skin. I covered it a couple of videos ago and tried to go completely naked in some restaurant or to the store, to the clothing store. Give it a shot. I would like to see how quickly will you be thrown out of that shop. The situation with COVID-19 is no different, at least in terms of legality and in terms of some companies being able to do whatever they want on their surface, so where they work. We didn't have that freedom to begin with. Both you and me, there was not that freedom. There are a lot of restrictions on our lives, and it is a great question how much of them makes sense and how much doesn't. But at the end of the day, including COVID-19 in it or COVID-19 vaccination in it is actually including nothing, because it doesn't change pretty much anything. Another B perspective to this question is ethical perspective, and from objective point of view, it is very difficult to decide whether we shall make all people to get a vaccine or whether we shall provide the whole freedom and people shall do whatever they want. There are a lot of consequences to both of these decisions, and it is, I think, from objective point of view at least, very difficult to say yes, we shall ignore opinion of one group of people because we have a different group of people and that's it. Yes, we shall just concentrate ourselves on this group of people because opinion of this group of people is more ethically appropriate for our society. In my personal opinion, on an objective level, it is a wrong statement. It is a wrong comparison. But on a subjective level, in my personal opinion, the easiest and quickest way out of this whole shit stuff blah 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 would be for all people to get vaccinated. It is my personal opinion. It would be, that's why I'm not opposing the mandatory vaccination. I think it is a good thing. After some time it will become similar to a flu vaccine. If you want to get it, get it. If you don't want to get it, don't get it. And at the end of the day, it will be the risk that each person takes individually. Yes, we still have people with autoimmune diseases who cannot make a choice and for whom basically each of us makes choice when that person gets or doesn't get vaccinated. But yeah, what can I say? I don't believe in good side of humanity as much to think that all of humanity or most big part of it will decide to do something good for small part of humanity. I don't believe in people so much. In the end, I want to provide you my assumption. In my personal opinion, we will live with COVID-19 for another year. I think it will go more or less away first after the next winter, after winter of 22 to 23. But it doesn't mean that we will return to a normal life as we had it prior to COVID pandemic. I don't think so. I think that we have a new normal now. And I don't mean it in terms of we will have to have a vaccination. No, but more people will think about masks. So the stuff that is completely normal for some East Asian countries may become normal for other countries. More work, more jobs will become distant jobs and you will not have to be at that location to do them. There may be some other things that I don't even consider, but I don't think that our normal from before will return again. It doesn't mean it is bad, it doesn't mean it is good. We will just see some changes in the world. At least it is my personal opinion. That's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If it is the case, please drop a like and also subscribe to the channel. You can also share your personal opinion and maybe say that I was wrong or right at some point in the comments. Except for that, I hope you have a great week. I see you on Thursday. Bye.